to the podcast with no limits. Whether it be sports, current events, or random thoughts, this is the place to step in and stay a while. Your host is a proud alumnus of Rio Hondo Prep, a former minor league baseball umpire, and a man with strong opinions. Welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast and your host, Matt Hersema.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Get Home Safe. It's a Friday edition of the podcast, so that means we have a wonderful guest for you guys, a long-form conversation with someone that I've crossed paths with many times. Today we're going to be joined by the basketball assigner for the Foothill Citrus Basketball Officials Association, Mike Kearns. Someone who's been there over 20 years, or maybe right at 20 years. Anyway, I worked about 10 years of basketball for that unit when I was back in officiating. And so we're going to talk to Mike about a lot of things today. He actually ran track at the University of Kansas, or Kansas University, however you say it, and played at Crespi High School back in the day. Has very strong opinions about officials, the Dodgers. He doesn't pull any punches. He gets right to the point. So let's get right to Mike Kearns right now. Let's go into the waiting room and bring him on the show. And there he is, Mike Kearns. Welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast.
Thanks, Matt. Pleasure to be here.
Mike, I appreciate you being here in late April, because usually this is the off season. You're talking about summer basketball upcoming for officials locally, but you are actually in the middle of the current high school basketball season because it got postponed from the usual winter months. So what has it been like, not only kind of changing up your time frame here working in April, but just this crazy COVID CIF season that you're a part of right now?
Oh, it's just been, like you say, it's been nuts. What people don't understand is we used to have about 200 officials. But with COVID, all the sports were put at the same time. So currently, I have officials working. We had them working football, basketball, softball, baseball, swimming, wrestling, track, and I'm missing volleyball. So the pool dropped. First of all, the pool dropped because people were afraid of COVID. They didn't want to come back, especially the young ones. The ones that were varsity playoff officials, they pretty much came back. So now I have paid members 105. Well, then we ended up with only like 17 didn't get certified. So now you're down to maybe 90. Well, of those 90, some people only have 1 day availability. And then now all of a sudden you're down to 80. And then of those 80, some can only work 6:30 games because they're doing a baseball game, and then they're going somewhere else. They're doing all this stuff. So it's absolutely insane. To give you an idea, yesterday, I get a call from Bassett High School that they are indeed going to have varsity girls. Great. 4 weeks into the season, and we're now adding a team. Isn't that nice? And so now you're adding it onto the problems that you have. Not enough officials for games that you have to do. We've had COVID issues. Yesterday, guys show up to Glendora High School. Somebody at Colony Frosh got COVID.
Oh, wow.
Canceled the game. Chino Hills varsity, guys show up, they cancel the game. Well, that's 10 days quarantine. That means everybody they play, I got to cancel all those games. Now they're going to be postponed, redo those games. And in not one case has it actually been positive. They all were false positive. There hasn't been one. There's been like 5 cases so far, and not one, as it's all said and done, was actually a COVID positive, because each player was tested negative twice after that, but you still have to quarantine the 10 days.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I've been around you before. Your phone is just blowing up nonstop. I mean, you start answering phone calls early in the morning during a normal season, a normal non-COVID season. So this is just, you are actually one of the first people I thought of when CIF said, okay, we are going to play sports. We're going to bunch them all together, because as a former guy who officiated multiple sports, like a lot of people do, what I thought about, like, well, what are you going to do? Do baseball at 3 o'clock and basketball at 7? I mean, it's got to be just crazy for officials, and guys, I'm sure are burning out too a little bit, right?
Oh, exactly. And that's the hardest part about this, because the ones that actually stayed on are the older officials. And on Fridays, they're going to have to do 3 games, but they're already doing baseball Tuesday, Thursdays, or softball. I looked at schedules. Almost everybody's working 4 days a week in basketball. So it's just absolute madness. Absolute madness.
Was there was the CIF more hesitant on bringing basketball back because it was an indoor sport versus, the football and in the baseball side of things? I mean, I know there's, swimming and there's other sports too, but those are kind of the main ones. So was basketball kind of a little slower to the table?
Absolutely, because the other sports you could play outside if you were in the orange. It depended on the band that you were in. Basketball was not in a band that you could play inside. So you had to wait until you could get the band. Well, then Damien High School built an outside plastic parquet basketball court so they could play outside. They were the only school that played 2 actual regulation games outside. Then the other problems that you run into are, I have LA County and San Bernardino County that I have to deal with. San Bernardino County, you could play inside. LA County, you couldn't. Baldwin Park is in a league now with all San Bernardino County schools. So they have to play all away games. Mm-hmm. Then you have to submit a report to the county. Then it's a 10-day wait from when you submit the report that you're able to do this. Well, when you have some of the schools that are changing ADs, like they changed their underwear, those ADs had no clue what they were doing. So some leagues, they're playing they have 2 girls varsity basketball teams in one league, and one has missing 1 varsity league. Azusa High School didn't have a varsity boys team, if you can believe that, and that till like last week. And then they decided they have enough, because the problem is Roland High School, let's say. Roland High School has no girls teams. Why? Because their softball program is better than their basketball program. So mm-hmm. all the good basketball players are playing softball. So they didn't have enough. So now they don't even play girls there, which affects all the other schools.
Well, I like my alma mater, Rio Hondo Prep. They played a 3-game football season. The student body is very small there, so they couldn't have a basketball season. They said, we're going to go play baseball instead because it's all the same kids. So, what is the basketball season? What is the window, if you could shape it for us? How many games are teams typically playing? Although it sounds like some schools are just saying, hey, we want to play a few games at the end of the season, but what is it for most schools?
Okay. It'd be no difference than if you're in college. If you're a college football recruiter and you're Nick Saban, you're going to go out and you're going to get the best players, and you're going to play 1 million games, and they're going to be primetime games of how much money I can make. That's the Damians. That's the Colonies. When you have an aggressive coach, they're going to get 25 games in. Wow. Because they're going to go out and they're going to get teams, and they don't care how good they are, how bad they are. Damien last Tuesday played the first league game. They were 15-0, and they played Etiwanda. Etiwanda hadn't even played a game yet. And Etiwanda beat them. So that's how it is. It just depends on the coach. The Bassett teams, they haven't played 1 game yet. They'll mm-hmm. play their first game tonight. A girls' game for Bassett. It's 4 weeks into the season. First game tonight. And the lower levels, the freshman girls no longer exist. I don't even know if I have a freshman girls game. A lot of them don't. Los Osos, if you can believe this, no Frosh boys team. I mean, we're talking 4,000 kids in a school and no Frosh boys. To me, it's craziness on how these things, who has a team, who doesn't have a team. Mm-hmm. But then some, like I said, some school districts, they don't want to test. They don't want to take the problem, go in there, and you have to take a test 2 days prior to the game. And then if the guy, then God forbid somebody tests positive, then you got to let everybody know. That's the part I've been fudging on.
So every school, this is Southern California, the CIF, this is the Southern section, basically Los Angeles, Orange County, all of that, Riverside County, but the Foothill Citrus unit is in the East San Gabriel Valley, a little bit of Inland Empire. So every school, if you're going to play a basketball game, the schools have to, the players and the coaches, they have to test before every game.
Yes, they test. They test if they play Tuesday, whatever, they test on Monday to be ready to be able to play on Tuesday, and they test, I think, maybe Thursday for Friday. I'm not sure how it goes, but I know it was my son Matt switched from from Covina to Benita, and I was watching a JV game, and the girls were going into the room to be tested.
I know that's so weird. Like,
yeah, get that thing stuck up your nose.
Oh my goodness. Like, hey, go into this room and see if you're healthy enough. That's weird. But so what about officials? Are they required to test at the high school level? I know they are at the college level.
No,
Okay.
they're not. Their masks during a game are optional. They're supposed now we only talk to one captain instead of two captains. We stay 6 feet away from the coaches. A lot of them will put a mask on, pull it down. And if they want to talk to the coach, they'll pull it up. You have to stay supposedly 6 feet away. I've seen when I've gone out and observed, I've seen some officials want to wear a mask, some don't want to wear a mask. But I just couldn't see how I could possibly run up and down the court in a mask. That makes no sense to me.
No, that'd be difficult, especially basketball with a whistle in your mouth. I mean, that's very difficult. I think as far as officiating goes, you can do it in baseball. You can football has got to be tough because your whistle and there's other ways to do it. But yeah, basketball, I saw some college guys on TV and some of them have kind of the weird mask with the whistle attached. And I'm like, I don't think I could do that. But anyway, so crazy COVID times for sports. But I got to say this, Mike, it's nice at least that I know there's some unrealistic policies and things, but it's nice at least that people are trying to get these games in for these kids and for the schools and administrators, for everybody, because last year was so devastating, heartbreaking to just see everything ripped away at the last minute. But however, did basketball finish, high school basketball, did they finish their season last year before COVID?
Kind of.
Yeah.
They finished CIF finals. We had a gal, Cynthia Doe, was going to do the state, and they shut down the state. It happened, I believe, like the first or second week in March. So yes, we got everything in, and then it shut down, and there was no state basketball champion last year.
Okay. Well, what are the plans for the postseason this year? Are there going to be CIF playoffs and state playoffs?
Not sure about the state playoffs, but they've decided I haven't figured this out yet, but yes, starting May 25th, they're planning on having playoffs. How, I'm not sure, because if it goes to yellow, then I don't think there's going to be a problem, because I heard that it's going to be yellow in LA County any day now. Okay. I think you had to be below 7% per 100,000 cases or something like that. And last I heard, it was 1 point something percent. So it's going to be any day now we'll be able to play. But there were problems before because you couldn't go to counties. You couldn't pass a county to do another county. So then now the logistics of the games, that the people that are putting the games together would come into play on, I can't pass San Gabriel to do a game in San Fernando section, which we would do sometimes. You couldn't go do a game at St. Francis, La Cañada. Those are no, not La Cañada, but St. Francis on the hill was in San Fernando, yet down the hill in La Cañada, that was San Gabriel. So it was interesting. Yeah. So you could do, so one night you could do the La Cañada game, but you couldn't go up the hill, which is like 100 yards to do a game at one point this year. So that's the part I'm waiting to hear from.
Oh yeah. And our coaches, I kind of say this tongue in cheek, our coaches understanding, because they're usually not, at least in my opinion, of the situation, in the sense that sometimes varsity boys coaches, they don't like the fact that, they're one of their officials has worked. This is their second game, or it is their third game. Or do they understand that, hey, the way things are, I may need some varsity boys officials to work 3 games and your game's last. So he's going to have some games under his belt. I mean,
now that part I've been pretty fortunate. The other part to that is in the baseline league where you have 3 officials, my pool, our number one, 3, and 6 officials decided not to work this year. So everybody moves up. But when you lose, that's your number one crew, basically, that decided not to come back. So I got a call from Andre Grant. Hey, you realize I'm seeing Rancho 5 times this year. I said, do you have a problem with Rancho? No. I said, well, don't worry about it, because you're not at Rancho High School. You're at Chino Hills one time, and Upland one time, and Damien one time, and Los Osos one time. Yeah, okay. Just as so happens that they're playing Rancho. But this year, basically, I'm filling games, filling slots. I had somebody text me to say, this is my greatest year because I've officiated with people I've never officiated with before, because I've had to make so many changes. That's the hardest part to this. And then you got Mike LeDuc, that he was going in his Damien tournament. He was going to have 80 schools. And then when the COVID hit, he realized, he called me. I said, Mike, I don't care how many games a day the guys do. He's just thinking about the money aspects. He just wants the games covered. And that's pretty much what the mode is now. Okay. I'm just trying to get the games covered.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's all you want. I mean, as the assigner, your job is to get guys there on time, and hopefully the training they receive from, instructional chairman and other things, that is where the phone call should kind of go. But you do get phone calls, I'm sure, from coaches, administrators regarding officials. Would you say you get more phone calls about certain plays or technical fouls, or would you say it has to do with professionalism, showing up late, things that are said in an argument or stuff like that?
Okay. People think that coaches are calling every 5 minutes. I can tell you, if I have 6 coaches contact me about a game in a season, and that's 6,400 assignments, maybe not even 6. Of those 6, they'll call me and said, we had a game at so-and-so, and this guy, I said, okay, it's this person. Yeah, how'd you know? Well, I already know, because 3 of the 6 were the same guy. Leopard doesn't change his spots. I mean, some officials are court Nazis. I mean, let's it, and I know it.
Yeah.
Because they walk on with a big chip on the shoulder. I'm the game. You guys are here for me. I'm not here for you. And we have a handful of those people, and they're the ones that constantly I get calls about, and there's nothing I can do about it. I keep, the rating goes lower, so they don't work as many games or in the places that they'd like to work, but it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It's a lower level coach will say something, or the varsity coach will be watching a lower level game. How is this guy? Well, coach,
this is where they start.
Well, I tell them, I say, a lot of times they'll say, how'd you know that? I said, I coached my whole life. That's what these coaches have come to understand. The bigger the game, the better officials are going to get, because I was a coach. Would I want this person working my game? Mm-hmm. That's how I officiate. If it's a league that doesn't mean anything, I don't even care if it's Etowanda playing Upland sometime. Well, if I know it's going to be a 40-point game, I'm not going to use a bullet of one of my best officials on that game when Cabina's playing Northview, the last time they played, it went triple overtime. And I know that. So I'm going to switch people and put people in the best game that I can possibly put them into.
Oh yeah. I think you're very strategic in your assigning. People don't always see the big picture. And I got to tell you, Mac, there's plenty of times I was refereeing where, coach would tell me, well, 1 or 2 in particular, I'm going to call the assigner. I'm going to call Mike Kearns. I was like, go right ahead. And I'll talk to Mike later.
No, and if anybody told me, hey, this guy's going to call you and say, call Mike Kearns, trust me, it never happens. That's a threat. And you got to. It's almost the same thing as if you play Cabina girls, you're not going to get a break if you're the visitor, because Mike Kearns' son coaches at Cabina. I don't even go to the games. How the heck do I care?
Yeah, I hate those connection things.
It's the same tit for tat. But my biggest job, though, is recognizing young talent and moving them up as fast as I can. And I think that's what I'm most proud of. I've got 2 guys in the NBA. I've got 3 guys in the 2 guys and a girl in the G League right now. I mean, I can remember Rocky Better telling me about this young kid, Matt Hersema, in football, that, hey, this kid has it. I mean, and you do. And you know that some kids have it. And I said, okay. And so I waited. And I don't know if you remember, your last game, I gave you a varsity game at Azusa. And
You gave me the final game, the triple. I
final
had
game
I had
of
the
the
freshman JV. You gave me it was my very first varsity boys game, and you gave
right.
me the
Yep. And it was the very first game you did.
and
That-
my
that-
and real quick, I had been at umpire school January and February, so I officiated until like New Year's, and then I went to umpire school. I hadn't officiated basketball in a month and a half, just to paint a picture for everyone.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting in the stands and I'm watching the game, and you didn't know it, but Alan Orifice, who would have been official that I've assigned him for 10 years, got out of officiating, was the head coach at Azusa. And I watched the game and I knew what my opinion was. I said, hey, Alan, how'd you think? He did a great job. I said, yeah, it's his first varsity game. You're kidding me. He couldn't believe it. Then I almost lost my job because
I know. I still can't believe when you called me a few days later. I could not believe I thought you were playing a joke. You said, Matt, I'll put my reputation on the line. I'm going, what are you talking about? My basketball season's over. You're like, no, you got one more game. You're gonna work a playoff game, a boys playoff game, and it was down in Orange County with like two pretty. It was down at Huntington Beach High School. And they played El Dorado, I believe. So, anyways,
and you remember who your partner was.
And I went with the instructional chairman at the time, Randy Homer. And I'm going, why are you giving me? I've had one varsity boys game, and it was a few days ago. What are you doing, Mike? And I'm sure you got asked that.
Yeah, what happens is in the first round, you get so many games, and then all of a sudden at the last minute, somebody gives a game back. Well, it was you or somebody who was fat, lazy, and ugly. You know what I mean? That wasn't going to represent the unit. I called Randy Homer. I said, Randy, this is highly unusual. I got to use him. I'm telling you, I'll put my reputation on the line. And Randy says, God, I don't know. He goes, I tell you what, I'll take him, because Randy lived in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to drive to the school by yourself and meet Randy there. But Randy made the ultimate decision that it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the board never knew about it.
It would have flown. I mean, I am not a basketball guy. I mean, I'm much more baseball guy and even a piece of football. I enjoyed working basketball, but I was never looking to aspire to, college or any big time playoffs or anything. I just, enjoyed working games, but I'll never forget Randy Homer, God bless him. We're in the locker room getting ready, and I knew he was fibbing. But he goes, yeah, hey, my shoulder's kind of hurt. Can you toss the ball? Can you, because usually the head referee tosses the ball up for the tip off. And I was like, I could read between the lines. I was like, I know what he's doing. This is my first playoff game. He's going to be like, hey, kid, go ahead and toss it, which I thought was really, really cool. I don't know if I had a chance to thank him or not, but that was a big moment for me. And
I don't know that I knew that.
Oh, and the gym was packed, Mike. It was a full house. I mean, student sections. I was like, okay, this is different than Azusa High School.
And here I am, 15 people in the stands.
Here I am with the basketball. I'm like, well, all right, let's toss it up and see what happens. And great moment, definitely. I thank you for that assignment, stepping off the ledge for me, because I know that playoff assignments specifically can be a little tricky as far as criticism.
Politically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then and the other thing is you touched on it about how you did different sports. I've always been a firm believer that a person who does football, basketball, and baseball, they're going to be a referee. If they're a referee in football, they're a playoff official in basketball, and they're a home plate umpire in baseball. If they're a D official, they're a lower level basketball official, and they're a lower level baseball official. Because all you have to do is be a communicator and know the rules. Yes, you have to have football judgment, but in reality, in football, don't throw your flag. You're going to go sky high. Don't be over officious. In basketball, you get the alligators and you let the lizards go, just like you do in football. And in baseball, if you have any semblance of a strike zone, you're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. But it's the communication with the coaches. But when you get certain guys, they think they're owed a living, and they put in the minimum and hope for the maximum. And then there's other guys that only have one level, which is a top level, and they don't care what sport it is. And they don't care if they're playing flag football on Saturday or slow pitch or someplace. They're going to put in as much effort in that as they are in officiating. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
firmly believe that.
Oh, it's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because I think you have a very interesting outlook that way, where you can kind of piece it all together. And it's funny you talk about communication. I remember back, I don't know, it's been a while now, but a few years ago, the reporting official, you called a foul, and in high school basketball, you'd report the foul, and then for the free throws, you would go opposite the table. You'd go away from the coaches and stand over there. And CIF, whoever the mechanics made the change. No, after you report the foul, you're going to go table side next to the coaches. And in the meeting, someone said something, this will really help with communication. This way coaches aren't, they can ask you about the foul, talk to you. And people said it'll be a lot better for communication, and people that have communication skills will excel, will excel. And it was you in the back, after that statement was said, you said, yes. And conversely,
but it's true.
The people that don't have those skills that will shrivel when someone's talking to them. It's sink or swim. So I heard one of many Mike Kearns funny comments from the back. Conversely, yeah, because communication is big. You got to know, I think from my experience, you got to know when to stay calm when the other guy's crazy. You got to know when to pick it up a notch as well, draw the line in the sand, say, okay, enough's enough. And I think some people do it better than others. What would you say in dealing with coaches and managing a game is the most important thing for officials, the people you assign, or other sports?
Well, I think first of all, when you go in there, you understand, like when I was a college official, these guys' jobs and these women's jobs are on the line. Um, even in high school, their job may not be on the line, but it could be on the line. I mean, we're getting paid to do a job, and if we communicate what what we need to communicate, it's going to make him a better coach. We had a game last night. I got a call from a coach, and I mean, not a mean one, but they changed. I don't know if you would know this rule, but in the old days, 10 people got in the front court, balls deflected into the back court. Anybody could go back and get it. That was no big deal. Well, they changed the rule 3 years ago that if the ball's deflected and it bounces off the defense and then bounces back to the offense into the back court, it's now back court.
Like a last touch situation?
Last touch, but if it goes A, B touch, A touch, back court, it's a back court.
A can't get it.
A can't get it.
Okay.
They can get it, but it's going to cost them. And I think they changed the rule because of maybe they wanted they reward the defense for doing something positive. Okay. They deflected the ball. That's the only thing I could figure out. Well, last night game in a cabina, and then it happened. Official ruled, and it's funny, he got the call right, but he explained it. He said something that was wrong.
Oh,
but he was right. So I get a call from the coach, and it's funny because you talk about communicating, they bet a gift card, and so I get the call, and I said he's absolutely right, and I go, yeah, he said it's been a rule forever, and I said no, I said they changed the rule in 2018. Oh, wait a minute, so now he only gets half a gift card. Yeah. But so those are kind of calls that I get sometimes from coaches. Although I got an irate one this morning, an email. Can I not have this person? I don't know why all the officials are against me. Well, to me, I tell them, it's reflection time, coach. You're the only coach this happens to. Or why does Mike LeDuc have a problem? Well, Mike LeDuc rips me in front of people, and I don't even work the games. Mad at what somebody else do, and I have to say, Mike, calm down. And then, of course, he'll apologize, and most coaches will apologize. But if you throw fuel on the fire and go tit for tat, and the voices keep going elevated, and then he gets thrown out, yeah, that's never going to solve anything. So you just have to sit there sometimes and, yes, dear. Yes, dear. If you're married, it helps. You being a bachelor doesn't help.
Well, one thing you I'll say something. For instance, I disagree with you. You always said if a coach is going to get thrown out, in a perfect world, you would like one official if one official gave the T, then a second official kind of gave the
That was the policy. Yeah.
yeah, so that it's not personal. It doesn't
Correct.
look personal. And I understand that logic too. I do. I just think at times, say you're I don't know, an official that the guy's clearly screaming at you or wants a piece of you, you're trying to get away. I think it's almost like, hey, I gave you one already. I'm not afraid to give you another one. But I do understand your logic on because we're in the perception business. So I totally get it.
But see, most coaches we don't throw them out. We don't give them technical fouls.
They do it
They
themselves.
earn them.
Yeah.
It's not, see, that's the thing. That's what people don't understand. It's like all the officiating in high school, all the softball games I did, hundreds and hundreds. I never threw a coach out ever. In college, I threw 2. One of them, I looked at the Long Beach State coach and he said something and I looked at him and I just took my head and I kind of just went over to the outfield and he just walked out of the outfield, opened the fence in right field and left.
Yeah.
And the Cal State San Luis Obispo coach says, Mike, that's the quietest ejection I've ever seen. He goes, nah, he wanted to go. His coaches want to go. Ron Rice was like that. There's coaches, Camlo. There's coaches that want a technical foul because their team is playing like doo-doo. And so they think that to fire them up, they'll get the ref to give them a T. Now it's 7-on-5 and they're going to play harder. And it happened at Bonita Glendora on Tuesday. Hamlo got a T. How can you argue this? Bringing the ball up on a 10-second count. The shot clock is at 24. Whistle blows, 10-second count. It was actually an 11-second count. And he went crazy and he comes on the floor. Well, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Now, we have the new rules now where you have a stop sign. You can book warn them. Then you can give them a T and sit them. And then you can give them another T. But I've been in games where lower level games, I actually had 2 coaches fired. I can't even believe it. Fred Coffey's first game. I couldn't believe it. Fred Coffey's first game, I'm doing a JV girls game prior to a varsity girls game at Gary. And coach said something and I gave him a T because he was all over Fred. And then he just folded his arms. He's standing there. I said, Coach, and there's fans there, but it's very quiet because there's just one side fans. I said, Coach, okay, the new rules are that because of the technical foul, you're going to have to sit down. I'm not going to sit. Okay. That's fine. I said, I'm going to go over here. We're going to shoot 2 free throws, and I'm going to walk over to take the ball out of bounds. If you're still standing there, I'm going to give you another technical foul, and you're going to have to leave the building. I'm not going to sit down. I said, okay. I shot 2 free throws. I walk over to the side.
No problem.
I look over there. He just still humping and popping. Boom, technical foul. Coach, you're gone. And then I look around, is there anybody that can represent the team? And the varsity coach was there. So he walks down and he's going to walk. He wasn't going to leave. So the varsity coach kind of going to walk him away. He reaches into his mouth. He takes a wad of gum and he bounces it off my chest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So game over, forfeit. In the old days with Jim Graham, I could have got paid for both games. Graham would have said, go home. I'll get somebody else to do the varsity game and they're going to have to pay you for that game and the next game. But I couldn't do it. In another lower level game, working with Ruth, not much fun, but after the game, I'm bending over to pick up basketball and somebody slaps me on the ass. And it's the coach. And I'm thinking, wow, I don't know why he lost. I don't know why he's so happy. I didn't even think anything of it, but my butt hurt. I was stinging. And so I walk over, I see the principal and the AD, and I'm kind of walking over and the AD goes, Mike, do you know our coach? I go, no. The principal goes, then we have a problem. Oh. They made him write me an apology and fired him the next day.
Wow.
Yeah, but
I think in 10 years, Mike, of basketball, I know I had at least 2 ejections, but it might've been 3. And like, you're right. There's times where it's just, it is what it is. I teed a guy once and he immediately, like kicked his chair or threw it, not threw his chair, but just like slinged his chair down. I go, okay, well, now you're gone, or kicked the ball bag. It was stuff like that. I'm like,
Sure.
well, you got to go. Sorry. And so it is funny. Ron Rice, yeah, he chased me out of the gym as the game ended. So I teed him with like a minute left or something, and he wanted. Well, I don't know if he wanted it. He kind of needed the points, but
Yeah.
he ended up chasing me out of the gym for a post game or something. I mean, San Dimas coach, the craziest at Northview, one of the craziest games I've ever been a part of.
Prestisator?
No, it was after that. It was Bruce.
Oh, got it. Yeah. The ball-headed, kind
Yeah.
of semi-balding guy. Yeah.
And John Raby had teed back-to-back tees to a San Dimas player who lost his mind. I mean, there was no way he couldn't not give him back-to-backs and throw him out. And then, yeah,
John Raby, the nicest officials we have.
Absolutely. An incredibly nice guy. So the player was saying something that was inexcusable, but yeah, Bruce chased me out, had to be restrained, tackled by people. I'm going, I got to get out of here. But anyway, there's plenty of memories and stories from the hardwood. And I thought it'd be a fun conversation with you and talking about officials, and especially this crazy year. Let's take a break from it. We'll come back to more basketball officiating, but let's talk about you, Mike, where you grew up, where you went to high school, where you went to college. Were you always kind of a guy involved in sports?
Okay. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and I came from a family, 7 children, 5 boys, 5 of us in the same bedroom, 2 sets of bunk beds and a bed in the middle.
Man.
Always, my dad was a LA City fire captain, so he was only home every other day. Mom didn't drive, so when it was the proverbial wait till your father gets home, we would get in so much mischief on the day Dad was at work, and then wait till your father gets home, and then we'd hear that we had hardwood floors, and the door would open, and because he smoked, and then he'd start, and you could hear him, oh, he's in the hallway, oh, he's in the bedroom, and then it's take out the belt, smack us around, and then we're off to school. We all had paper outs. I think I laugh because I think that's why I ended up becoming a runner from 10 years old. I mean, I was always the smallest kid in my class, but I delivered 100 papers 4 days a week for 7 years. Started high school at 4'10" and 79 pounds at Crespi High School. That year, my next door neighbor was an LA city basketball official, and he got a bunch of us kids around, and he decided he was going to teach us how to be basketball officials because he represented CYO at our local Catholic school, and that we would one-man game these games. Okay. So that's how I got started in 1961 in basketball.
Wow.
I was talking to you earlier, and I told you it was insane then. I mean, we got twice. I got to go to the finals of the NBA, Laker and Celtics. We did one of the games. We did 3 quarters before the game even started, and the last quarter was played at halftime. And the fans loved it so much they called us and asked if we could come back. So we came back. I think it was game 7, and here we are sitting. I mean, they gave us seats under the basket, and I got $6. I was the happiest guy in the world. It was nuts. But I ended up playing football in my freshman year on C because we had exponents. And then if you wanted to play football the next year, you had to play a spring sport. So I ran for track. Got lucky, won my first distance race. Said, okay, I'll try this. Sophomore year, I was probably the 8th man on a 7-man cross country team. I got a letter for varsity, but there were other people better than I was. We had a good core of freshmen, or sophomores at that time. My junior year, got a little bit better, went to the finals, and I laugh. I went to the finals of the C13, of the B1320, and I got 6th, and I got a pat on the back. First 5 got medals, and I get nothing. Now, shoot, you participate, they give you a participation certificate and all this stuff. We didn't get none of that. And then my senior year, got much better. I guess I got lucky because they decided to try the 2-mile.
Okay, Mike, we had some technical difficulties, but hey, that's life sometimes. So anyway, you were talking about your athletic career in high school. Tell me about your early days of running track, of all things, at Crespi, and kind of some of your success there.
Okay, well, I don't know where it ended, but at Crespi, I played football, C football. I was 4'10" and 79 pounds when I started high school, 13 years old. Played corner, starting corner. I always laugh. I say I always hit them in the unmentionables because they never even saw me because I was so short, and I just sneak up on them. So I just got tangled up in their legs and I could tackle them. But then to play football the next year, you had to play a spring sport. So I ran track. First race was a C1320. I'll never forget it. 3 laps around the track. I barely won. I think my dad threw me across the finish line because he was an assistant coach, in 4 minutes and 6 seconds for 3 laps.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that was my freshman year. And I won the race. 3 years later, I run 4:16 for 4 laps. I mean, I just laugh in high school. But then my sophomore year, I went out for cross country, and I was like the 8th person on a 7-man team. Sometimes I'd run varsity. I usually won the JV race, or I got, I did okay in the varsity. Got a letter, went out for track, made it to the CIF finals in the B1320. I think I ran 3:11 and got 6th. For 6th, they give you a pat on the back and an attaboy. You get, because they only give medals for the first 5. Now you get participation certificate just that you even got out of your league, which is pretty funny. This was basically the Masters final. Then carried that over into the track. We had one guy that was the best junior runner at the time, and one of my history teachers told me the day I beat that guy is the day I get a B in his class. So, yeah, well, it's a private school. I'm telling you right now, the faster I ran, the better my grades got. And that was a fact. So I'll never forget it. We had our time trial that next Friday. I'm right behind him, just right on his shoulder. I was always a little bit faster, but he always ran from front. And I can remember trying to pass him on a turn, which I shouldn't do. And I kind of cut him off, and he grabbed my shirt and tried to pull. And that kind of gave me some life. And then I ended up winning. Then the next day, people in the class would say, "Hey, Kearns beat Sackley in the track." So I said, "All right." And I got a B. And then, so that year, I had a good year. My junior year, my junior year was the year that I ended up in the 1320 and got 6th. My senior year, I got 2nd in CIF, got beat at the tape. I thought I had won in cross country, and that was the only race I lost in cross country. And then in track, I never lost a race and was a CIF 2-mile champion. Went to state, got 3rd in the state. Was lucky enough to have Vern Wolf, the track coach at SC, come over, and Bob Timmons, who was the new head coach at the University of Kansas. And since our senior team had set the national record in the 4-man 4-mile relay in high school, I ended up going to Kansas because I thought maybe I could be in the freshman junior college 4-man 4-mile relay national record holding team, and then the college national record holding team, since I had the fastest miler in the world basically at that time as a teammate. Well, freshman year, you're not eligible. So we ran 2 cross country meets, and Ryan didn't even run cross country. In track, we did at the Emporia relays, we did set the national record in the 4-man 4-mile relay. Of course, it was pretty easy when Ryan anchored in 3:58. That really helped. And then my sophomore year, I kind of got hurt, but I lettered in cross country, and my running days were older. My running days were over. And then my roommate's guardian got the head cross country and track job. He was a Kansas alumni, and that was on the Big 8 winning team in the 53. Got the head cross country and track job at Cal Poly Pomona. And he asked me if I would come to Cal Poly. And he said he'd put me up in a track house and you would get a job that you'd work for your meals. I said, oh, sure, why not? I'll come home. So I came home. I was ineligible for a year, gained a little bit more weight because I'd eaten 3 squares, and ended up playing free safety on the football team. My senior, it would have been my junior year in college in spring. I was a starting free safety. Then I separated my shoulder, and that pretty much terminated that career. But
so, wait a minute, cross country runner / free safety in
yes,
wow, that's an interesting combo.
yeah. Well, I went from 79-pound corner to I was probably around 145 pounds, probably 5'8", 145, 150 maybe, but I was pretty fast. So, and I was like a jack of all trades and a master of none. While I was at Cal Poly, when I wasn't able to run, they had Kanaki football. It was intramural football. I was the quarterback my junior year. I was the quarterback of the team that won the whole enchilada in intramurals in the football, in the flag. It's a touch football thing. The next year, I took another whole team. I was the quarterback. Won again. So only one person won 2 years in a row, and I got cocky and I thought, okay, now I'm gonna. If I can do this here, I can play. Sure, I can play because Cal Poly stunk. And then all of a sudden, I'm in the hospital at the Cal Poly doctors, and they go, "Yeah, you separated your shoulder." I go, "Well, maybe football wasn't a good idea." But
who are some of the teams Cal Poly Pomona played in football? Who are some memorable opponents?
Well, yeah, memorable. They would play teams like they played Cal State, Bakersfield, Cal State. They were all Cal State. So it was, I think Cal Poly at that time was Division II. They played slow. I might even have been 2 at the time. I mean, we got beat 50-0. I beat Long Beach State, Cal State, LA. It didn't matter.
Yeah,
Whoever played, because basically Cal Poly ended up being a club team. Although when I left, Roman Gabriel ended up being the coach. But just before it folded. But when I came to Cal Poly in '67, I was sitting with the track guy in the first week, and I'm in the quad, and a gal walks down in the quad, and I go, "I'm going to marry that girl."
No,
and he just starts laughing, and we just celebrated our 52nd wedding anniversary in April.
Wow. Like Babe Ruth calling your shot, Mike. What gave you that confidence there? How did it?
It's just one of those things. You look at somebody and you've gone out a bunch of times and you figure, okay, now that's the person that I know what she's going to look like at the end. And I think she would be even better looking at the end as she is right now. This is going to be good. And so
you are a wise man. When did you tell her this story?
No, this is what's hilarious. For 1 week, everybody that on the track team knew about it. And every time one of my track guys would walk by her, they say, "Hi, Mrs. Kearns."
No.
Honest to God. I hadn't even talked to her. Wow. And it turned out that I was in an econ class maybe and came out when she was coming into a math class. And she'd look at me and turn her head, and I'd kind of not know what to do. But I forget. I'm trying to remember. Obviously, I asked her out. We went to, like, Cal Poly had movie night. So I think it was like a Saturday night at the movies or something like that. And we went out one time, and then we've been together ever since that one time. It's my animal magnetism,
Yeah, exactly, man. Calling your shot. That is wow. That's impressive. So football at Cal Poly, track at Cal Poly as well.
Yeah, Kansas and track. Yeah, I ran. Yeah, I got a medal at running the steeplechase at Cal State Long Beach. I think I got 4th because that was an open. I couldn't run anything for the college. I can only run in the open events. Or I had on my back of my sweats, I wrote U of A, unattached. And I ran, like, in cross country, I ran like, JV cross country meets because I wasn't eligible to do anything.
How'd you like that Kansas weather while you were there? That's very different than Southern California.
See, that is interesting because the 2 years I was there, I think I saw it snow once. I remember at 3:00 in the morning, the people knocking on doors. We ran outside because it was snowing. In reality, in And it's funny because KU is the highest point in the state of Kansas because they have Mount Ord on it, 1,000 feet. So that is the highest point in Kansas. But it was, I would walk around in shorts and a polo, 24 degrees out, because the sun was shining. So it didn't bother me. Now, there were some crazy stuff that happened. We would be on the track in no shirts, shorts, running our repeats. Black cloud would come over and you go, uh-oh. Then it starts pouring, hailing, snowing. I mean, the change of weather was insane. And then it was funny because it's a football stadium. So all the water goes onto the track. And it was a cinder track. We didn't have all-weather track in those days. And then I was showing everybody how you can body skim. And they were cracking up. Because I do it at the beach. You just run and you pull your hands down and you just skim across that little film of water you have when it's at low tide, just like your body skimming with a board. One funny story of Kansas is, it was pretty cold. It was in November, and they have Potter's Lake. And the guys go, Kearns, I bet, I dare you to swim across Potter's Lake. I said, well, how much you give me? And they ponied up like $15. And this is probably 1966. I had to break off it was icy on the sides of the lake, but not in the lake. Get in and I'm hauling butt. And then they think I'm going too easy. Rocks at me. I got out. I mean, I don't know why I didn't die. They put my sweats on me. I remember getting back to the shower. They put the shower in. I swear to God, I thought it was scalding and they were laughing because it was cold water. It felt like it was like I was burning to death. But I did some crazy stuff while I was at Kansas. I thoroughly enjoyed my college life, really did.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, crazy college time. Now, as a Kansas alum, or someone who went there, I mean, you got to follow the Kansas basketball program. Okay. I got to imagine.
I was pretty fortunate. In football, not so fortunate. Gail Sayers left the year that I came.
Oh,
we won two football games in the 2 years I was there. Conversely, JoJo White came the year I was there. And if you remember the movie Thunder Road, Kansas lost to Texas El Paso in overtime. We thought we won the game. JoJo White hit a fall away from half court on the sideline. Swish, we're in the dorms going crazy. And he had his foot on the sideline by like just a little bit. Oh. And they're saying if we wore black shoes, they never would have known. But we wore white shoes and it was a black line. So we lost to Texas Western in overtime, or KU would have won the national championship that year. We never lost a home game the 2 years I was there, ever. But we lost down the line. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was insane. They would literally open the doors. Everybody would run because you had a ticket, but there was they had benches. They didn't have seats on one side of the court. So all the kids got to sit on the floor. I would go for the freshman game and sit first row right on the floor. Oh, it was unbelievable. I loved it. I couldn't, running wise, I wasn't doing much. I had played intramural softball. I mean, I would do anything that you could to get out of running. But when I went to Cal Poly, when I got married, I got married my senior year, getting ready to get a teaching credential. So that's when I got into baseball at San Gabriel Valley Umpires in 1969. And I was the guy like you that would do 6 games on Saturday and 4 games on Sunday and a game every day. Cliff Hamlow was the IC. Mike Palladino was the president. And I worked every single day. And my pregnant wife would sit, we'd bring a chair, she'd just sit and watch, and then we'd go home. Lived in a nothing apartment in Montclair. And then I think in 72, I joined the baseball group, the Foothill Citrus baseball group for a couple of years. But I moved in 72 to Huntington Beach. And so I didn't want to do games and have to drive to Huntington Beach. And then in 76, I started basketball and softball in Huntington Beach so I could drive. My job, I could get out early enough that I could make 3:15 games and then go home because I lived in Huntington Beach. And then in 78, I moved back and I was doing softball. And then probably in 85 is when I got it. So to get into the college ranks, somebody had to say, hey, I'm going to sponsor you to get into college. That's how it worked in those days. Mm-hmm. And so you start out with some JC games, and ultimately I was very fortunate. Was ranked pretty high in Division I. My schedule was, I get 72 college games. I just remember Justin Van Dyne and JT Orr, who are now in the NBA, they kept saying, God, if our college basketball schedules were like this, I would have died and gone to heaven, they'd say. I'd have UCLA, and I'd have the Kia Classic would come in, and 6 of the 8 teams that would every year play for the national championship would be playing in this tournament. And I thoroughly enjoyed softball.
So I got to ask, I always ask the softball guys this, and I typically get the same answer, but so why did you go into softball umpiring and not baseball umpiring?
Very simple. Because the spaces are only 60 feet, game is 10 times faster, and I'm walking off the field at my game, and I look over the baseball field, and this was before you couldn't when they have the step out of the batter's box. They'd be in like the 4th inning, 5th inning, and my check was like $4 difference than theirs. and I'd go, you guys are crazy, dumb. When I was, and then I remember at Cal State Fullerton, I would do a softball. They built the stadium so the softball field faced one way and the baseball stadium faced the other way. So I'd see Kenny Allen and Rich Padilla, and they'd be in the golf cart going one way for their $100 a game. And at that time, we were making, oh God, I want to say we were making $90 a single game, or like $150 for 2 games, something like that. But they're there 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah.
Now it got crazy toward the end because pitchers got smart, players got better, so that nobody would throw a strike unless they had to throw a strike. So you called way more pitches, and it got longer. But I just like the fast pace.
Yeah, no, that's typically the answer you get, whether it's high school or college or whatever. And so I've watched a few softball. I'm like, it's just a totally different game. And I honestly can't explain baseball, why we do it, why we go out. It's like baseball guys, we're just a different breed. And, it's like, it's a love-hate relationship for sure. I haven't umpired in a year now, and, hey, it is what it is. So let me ask you this, Mike. You have worked Division I college softball. You have obviously officiated basketball. You've officiated football. Which of those sports would you consider your favorites, or maybe not your favorite, but just kind of break down each sport as someone who has officiated, all 3 of those?
Okay. If I had to pick my all-time favorite sport, it's football.
Yeah.
Bar none. I absolutely love being in the action, but I got into it so late. My knees were just about sawdust from all of the softball games I'd done, because I always ended up at home. I was always the plate umpire because that's just what they did. I'd get a rookie on the bases, and I'd have to do the plate. But again, football, if you're a communicator, because it's so crazy on the sidelines, I'd always go up to the coach, hey, I don't care if you come on the field. I really don't. If I had a white hat that was a real stickler, I'd say this guy is, a hard ass, but I don't care. It's your game. Here's all I ask. If you're running a pass play, let me know, because that's going to tip me off. I can get down the field and get a better look, make me look good. Yeah, I did. And that's exactly what I said. If you're coming our way, get the guys back. If they're running away from me, I didn't care, because we wouldn't be in the play. So I think coaches appreciated that. My white hat didn't, but I always got along. I have a really funny story. Greg Gano, who's still coaching today. He's been around. He was at Los Altos, South Hills, down Lugo.
Northview. He coached
North,
my cousin at Northview for a bit.
And then he was also at Damien. And so he's a tough guy. Really tough guy. And I can remember walking onto the district field, and one of the I think I was the headline. I mean, I was the line judge, and this younger guy was the headline. Said, "Oh my God, it's Greg Gano." Not only had I said that, Greg goes, "Oh, F bomb, not my Kearns," and I'm laughing, and this guy's freaking out. I said, "Do you want me to switch?" "Oh God, would you switch?" So I switched, and there was, I'll never forget. They had 4th down and 5, and like maybe the 45-yard line going in. "Mike, what should I do?" I said, "I'd punt." Maybe it's 4th day. I said, "I'd punt, get it close. You got Mark Hagan's kid's the quarterback for San Dimas. He's only a freshman. He'll probably fumble a snap." Okay, so they punted down to like the 3-yard line. First play, fumbled snap. Northview gets the ball on the 1-yard line, comes over. "Thanks, Mike."
Wow. And you had known Greg because he was a softball coach for a long time too, right?
And not only Greg coached my son Matt, who's 46 years in Pop Warner football.
Wow.
And so I'd known Greg that far back through Little League baseball. He was more West Covina American, but I knew him from Covina Pop Warner football, right? Covina Vikings, I guess it would be. Yeah, he's intense, but he forgets it 5 seconds after he says it. Yeah, some people never forget. And so that's why I love him. He just lets you have it and it's over. And a lot of times these guys, and I tell our basketball officials, I could care less. That guy was yelling at you the whole time. I didn't know. All I heard was noise. The guys that I can't stand in basketball are the whiners. Wingnut at Workman was my worst. "Oh, I'm getting homered in my own gym," or "Oh my goodness." And it's so squeaky and weird that you hear every single syllable. Where Ron Rice screaming and yelling, it's just noise. I just ignore it.
Yeah,
I hated whiners.
Oh, whiners, yeah. No doubt about it. I had, when I was officiating football, it was you try to have a conversation with the coach, like it's a working relationship. What I can't stand is when an entire sideline is just out of control. And I'm like, hey, we had an agreement before the game that you and I were going to, work together here. I can't communicate with you when I got 30 people screaming at me. Like, it's just not going to go that way. So some people know how to take charge of a situation and some people do not.
It's like anything. It's like basketball. You pass the eye test when you walk in.
Mm-hmm.
In football, I had an advantage. I still had, I was 50 years old, but I still looked like I was in shape. And I had the white coming off I look athletic and I have the white coming off, and I didn't wear glasses on my hair, and I didn't wear glasses. So already they figured I probably had worked 30 years in the association, where you come in at 22 years old or whatever you were. And now they go, "Oh my God, we got a guy in his first game." And even though we're probably the same, but it's just perception is reality. And so if you're not a court Nazi and you're not a sideline Nazi in football, you're going to do fine.
Yeah, I was working professional baseball at the time, working minor league baseball. I'd come home and I'd work high school football, or especially high school basketball. You work more games in basketball. So it was funny, the comments I would get, like, "Hey, you carry yourself pretty good for a young guy," and stuff. And I was just like, "Yeah, thanks, man." I just worked 150 professional baseball games, but yeah,
a little bit tougher than here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your kind words. But so yeah, it's interesting. So you like football, probably the best. What about?
By far.
Yeah.
That definitely football. If I wanted to make money, obviously basketball is the money-making sport. Basketball was my get in shape sport. I always laughed. I could barely get 2 fingers in my waistband at the start of the season, and at the end of the season, I could put my fist between my stomach and my waistband. I'd lose about 10 pounds. But again, I ran my rear end off all the time. There's people that if it was a layup, if they thought it was going to be a breakaway, they don't take 5 steps, which used to drive me nuts, because then what happens if they don't make it? And then there's a foul on the rebound and you're trying to call a foul.
Yeah, like I don't think you can ever go wrong in hustling. And that is something that if you got to say, you know, 1 or 2 things to new officials, it's like, you can't go wrong hustling, and you can always tone you down. Hey, you maybe overdid it there or whatever, but in general, you can't. I mean, there is some over hustle. Yeah. But if you hustle, it's much easier to turn it down than to say, hey, you need to pick it up. Let's go put some work in.
When you hustle at being a coach, you stand out. You stand out because there aren't very many. Because as we get older, we get smarter and more efficient in how we do things. But as a coach, I appreciate especially younger officials that work hard. I go watch my grandson's football games and I'll see somebody call up Tracy. Tracy, I really like this guy, the high school football Assignor. I really like this guy. Hustled. I talked to him at halftime, listened to everything I said. And then Tracy would do it, because my job, identify the young guys, move them up as fast as I can, and help them the best I can. It doesn't do me any good to yell at. It's like when I coached. I sit everybody down. I said, if I scream and yell at you as I'm screaming, yelling at you as an athlete, I'm not screaming at you, Matt Hersema, as Matt Hersema, the human being. It's Matt Hersema, the football player, to get everything out of you. The day I don't say anything to Matt Hersema, 2 things have happened. One, you learn everything that I possibly could teach you, which probably isn't going to happen when you're at the beginning of your career. Or 2, I don't think you have it. I'm not wasting my breath. And I tell you, if I don't talk to you, you might as well quit, because I don't think you have it. And I'm not going to waste my time if you're not going to do those kinds of things. And we have those in sport, and you have them in baseball. They are doing freshman baseball 1-man games, and they're 55 years old, or they're still doing stuff, but they never get higher than the lower levels. It's because they don't care. They just look for the beer after the game.
You know, and I say this all the time. There is, at the high school level specifically, you go to college, you know, you've advanced a little bit, you put the time in, but there's a certain level, various levels at the high school level. In regards, there's people that are diehard with this thing. There's people that want to work every day. They want to work multiple games. They want to advance. There's also people that are just happy working a few games, that want to be JV officials, freshman, lower level officials. There's nothing wrong with that, because as an assigner, you need everybody, Mike, right? You need all different.
I love the guys that are out for the exercise. Don't care. I mean, I just need game sucker uppers. I mean, I need those guys. I mean, I give a perfect example. We have Henry Davis. Henry Davis is as old as I am. I think he's 73. Old, but smart as a whip and knows how to control a game. I don't know that he gets 1 step past half court half the time, but never gets in trouble, because he always has a smile on his face, and people don't care. They just know he's got such good judgment. They don't care. And that's the other thing about basketball officiating. You have guys, and football, man, they just look so sharp. In baseball, they're so crisp, and they're this and that, but their strike zone's not very good. And then you got the guy comes out and he's, shirt's untucked or whatever, and he never misses a pitch. It's coaches don't care in basketball. When they go foul and the whistle blows and it's a foul, or if they say travel and the whistle blows and it's travel, they don't care that your mechanics are not right. All they care about is how is your judgment. So you can help yourself by hustling and do all that, but if you don't have the judgment, it isn't going to matter.
Oh yeah, I think most coaches would say that they would rather, maybe not in the moment, but they would rather a play get ruled correctly, ugly, than a good-looking wrong call, right?
Yeah. Oh, I totally understand what you're saying. Did you see the baseball game yesterday? This is what I don't like about baseball.
Which one?
You got to look it up. There's a play in the Brewer game.
Oh, it's the obstruction at first base.
Yeah. Did you see the play?
Yeah.
How tough is it for the coach? Would you guys please talk to the home plate umpire and say, can this happen? But baseball doesn't do that. They just sink or swim with, although I can't say that. Today I was with Brad Claude and Rich Padilla and Stovall and Chuck Kemp, and we go every Thursday, the baseball guys, and we talk. And they said that could kind of change that philosophy of you live or die with your call. It's kind of changed. But in the old days, they wouldn't do it. And you could see what happened. The guy got straight line. He saw the runner make a right-hand turn, and he didn't have to. But he made a guess, and he didn't see the play. And that home plate umpire should have stepped right up and said, that's an out. I mean, that could have cost somebody a game, could have cost the manager a job. Those are things that bug me, that I'm glad we have instant replay now that we're going that. I love instant replay, but I don't like it if that play maybe could have, I mean, I don't know if you're allowed to have instant replay on that one, but you should have put your heads together on that. Because that might be the worst call. That might be the worst call I've ever seen in a major league game.
Well, as far as the rule goes, a guy could be out by 40 feet. Now, I will say that specific play, I probably, when I saw it, I was like, that's not big enough. I'm staying off of that. This is something that is black and white in the rule book. If there is obstruction on a batter before he gets to first base, he might be out by 30 feet. The pitcher is standing in the base path, for instance,
Right.
halfway, and the runner has nowhere to go, and the guy's out by 45 feet. By rule, he gets that base. Now, that play would happen in the Brewers game. I don't think that was enough for that.
Did he hinder him from getting to first base?
And at the time, there was potential obstruction, the hindrance. I thought the ball was already in the first baseman's glove. The play was over.
He wasn't in the running lane.
Yeah.
That was the key aspect of that play. Is he was not in the running lane.
The runner.
Yeah, runner was in the grass.
Yeah, the running lane is specifically only for a thrown ball situation. You don't have to run in there if you're being, you can't be runner's lane interference. That's only for a thrown ball in that situation. But a lot of people are like, oh, you have to run in here. Yes, on a thrown ball to prevent a catch from the first baseman. So there's a whole lot of elements that went into that. But yeah, to answer your question, I saw the play. I was like, I don't like that. And yeah, and you knew it was going to lead to something. Although Pat Murphy, the assistant coach for the Brewers, is not a nice man. So good to see him kind of.
So you guys know all that stuff.
Anyway, while we're on baseball, we have to talk, Mike, about. Well, I want to talk about a couple things. You are a very adamant, outspoken fan, sports opinionated guy, which I love. We're always going to get an honest opinion. I want to hear from you about specifically the Dodgers, and then I can't not talk to you about USC football.
There you go.
I know that is
our 8-4 lifetime. As long as we have the coach that we have, 8-4 for the rest of our lives, and maybe win a bowl game if it's a horrible school, but a normal school we won't win. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Dodgers. Okay. Dodgers. It's just insane. They have the best pitching staff. When you have Bozo the Clown as your fifth starter and he just throws 99, 100 miles an hour, you shouldn't lose a game. But here we are. Now, we're not playing the greatest people at the beginning. I mean, we're playing teams that aren't doing very well. Part of that, I think, is because the Dodgers are so good. And in the fourth game, we rest 2 players. Fourth game, and then then we end up. What happens is now they can't. Those guys then go into a slump. Every time he sits somebody, Turner was the last one. Here we are. We're playing the first game after losing 3 out of 4. We sit Turner, and the next game he goes 0 for. Now he hit a home run yesterday, but I just don't understand. It's Major League Baseball. They're getting paid millions of dollars. While they're hot, you don't sit them. If they're in a slump, am I stupid? If they're getting into a slump, then you sit them. Relax.
Yeah.
I don't like I use the Clint Eastwood Trouble with the Curve with Rayleigh.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you throw him any other pitch? And it baffles me with Pollock. If you throw him a slider low and away, he's going to strike out 99 times out of 100, and then they'll throw him a fastball and he'll get a base hit. So he keeps his batting averages at 238, or he hits a home run, and he stays in the major league roster forever. But Rayleigh, and then a guy got a bunch of guys mad at me for what I said about Peters because he's a Glendora guy. But why would you throw him anything other than a high fastball? Because he'll swing right through it. And all these things happen. Maybe people got injured because they were playing and then they weren't playing and they were playing and they were playing. Maybe if they were playing the whole time, they wouldn't have got hurt.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to what you just said. I mean, I don't understand some of the decisions, that the Dodgers make. I mean, Dave Roberts has been there. You could say what you want. Oh, he's led them to 3 World Series. They won it last year. But I just routinely see I'm not the guy that thinks, okay, the Dodgers need to go 162-0. No, I understand that. But when you blow a 7-1 lead to your division rivals on the last game of a series, that says something to me. I mean, about your bullpen. Their starting pitching could not be better. But what do you think, Mike, that baseball today, it's strikeouts and home runs, and it's like there's nothing else in between?
Oh, absolutely. And taking the strikeouts, and now it's walk, get your on base percentage. Muncy is the biggest joke on the Dodgers. He hasn't got a hit in 8 games, but he has 12 walks. Well, who cares? All you had to do was watch the series with San Diego to realize that we had little leaguers from the 4th spot on. If you got by Betts, Seager, and Turner, then the catcher's going to hit into a double play or he's going to strike out. And then there's nobody after that. I mean, Noisy, at least I liked him because he hits the ball, but he doesn't even play. Guy does great and then he doesn't play. So once they get by there, they just do all the things they need to do. And that's an inning and a third or two thirds before you get to the next one. And it just drives me nuts. If that's the best farm people we have, then we're in trouble. But I don't know, Mitch Kintry got a bad back. I don't know. Maybe he got a bad back because they sat him. I don't know. But yeah, I'm just not, he's so analytical. And the biggest thing is he won't win a game at a time. He's not going to do something that goes against his philosophy to win the game at hand. That's what bothers me. In other words, if he's terrible, our closer is terrible, maybe he shouldn't be the closer, but he's not going to pitch certain guys back to back. Well, and there's certain situations I think you almost have to pitch.
Well, those delicate millionaires, Mike, I tell you, they're very delicate. You can't expect to work 2 days in a row. Come on now. That's, the working class here goes to work 5 days a week. I would think that a guy who pitches 1 inning a night should be fine.
You would, or 1 out.
Or maybe if you do pitch 5-6 days in a row, it's like, okay, whatever, take a breather. But yeah, you can't screw. I think the Dodgers they're so talented. I think they're definitely going to get in the playoffs. I think San Diego will be right there with them as far as the division goes.
I'm not so sure.
But as far as going to the playoffs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's their record against everybody but the Dodgers? Terrible.
Oh, San Diego.
Yeah. Because they get so sky high. When they played the Brewers, they were 2-2 before they went into the series. They lost to the Dodgers. For them, it's the World Series. They're sky high, and Dodgers sit there like they're mummies. Nobody says anything, nobody smiles. They're professional. Then they come to us, they beat us 3 out of 4, and then they go right out and lose their next 2 games. They're 1-6 in the games between the Dodgers and their series before and after. They're 1-6.
Yeah.
How? The team that's killing me is San Francisco, and Wood ends up with he had 1 hit in 6 innings last night. His ERA was 0.50. And of course, another Dodger we get go. Everybody picks up the Dodgers that we let go. Farmer gets the game-winning hit against us the first game of the Reds. That was our guy.
I think the NL West is going to be more competitive than people think. I
Oh,
think,
heck yeah.
I mean, we're about a month in now, and standings are still pretty tight. There's a long season. This is what's going to be interesting this year, because compared to the 60 game sprint last year, is I think you're really going to see some ups and downs instead of when it was a shortened season. It was like, it was kind of cool. It was like, oh man, every day, like, oh yeah, it matters. Every day is a big one. But baseball is a grind. It is a long distance run, if you will, as the former track star you were, understand. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I for a while there was all this non-playoff victories. The past few years, Dodger fans have been spoiled. Got the World Series championship last year and been in the World Series, but I think LA is a greedy sports town. We want more. We don't want mistakes. So we shall see.
We want good coaches. I don't think anybody will say that they didn't like Tommy Lasorda.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody will tell you they didn't like Pete Carroll.
Mhm.
Although I thought that with SC, I always felt that they were arrogant. They always went for it on 4th and 1 when they didn't have to. I thought when they had the 3-headed monster with the quarterback and 2 running backs, Lendell White and Bush and the quarterback, that Lendell White would run 10 yards of carry all the way down the field, and we throw 3 incomplete passes and kick a field goal because we had to get the quarterback. Leinart had to get his touchdown passes, and then next thing you know, instead of just making a mix and do it or whatever it takes to win the game, get ahead by 28 points. Then you can let him do whatever he wants to do, but try to win the game.
What do you think of USC football currently? You talked about Clay Helton and kind of the mediocrity that it is really, but like, USC used to be this big brand. Now I don't think it is the national brand that it once was, just because it's been inconsistent. I would say Oregon has had a more consistent program than USC the past, 10 years maybe.
If you're a high school kid, would you rather go to Oregon or to downtown LA to live? Most kids are going to go to some place that they're not used to living. If I went to Kansas, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I could have gone to SC, but I would have come from home. I didn't want to live on campus. I didn't want to live anywhere near there.
Well, but they're it's downtown LA. It's not very glamorous. It's not the palm trees and all this, beach property and everything. It's rough. And, once you get on campus, it's pretty nice, but
it's beautiful.
Eugene, Oregon, I've been up there. Their facilities are unbelievable. Second to none.
Well, you have Nike there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Nike makes everything better.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, but Washington, why wouldn't you want to go to Washington? UW is absolutely spectacular. I'm not so sure about Washington State, but again, in high school, in college sports, look at the programs. Coaching, it's the coach. Saban's been a winner everywhere he's gone. Urban Meyer, winner wherever he's gone. When we were at our heyday, we had Pete Carroll, who's a winner. It's coaches that make the difference. Yeah, it's definitely the players. You can't win the Kentucky Derby with a jackass, and you can't make chicken soup out of chicken food. But basically, SC that bugs me is they have absolutely no discipline. None.
You're right.
Personal fouls, defensive end play is just pathetic. And to me, that's coaching. And the guys I don't think that there's any repercussions for anything people do on that team. Clay Helton is, Clay Helton's the Dave Roberts of college football. Dave Roberts is the nicest man in the world, and he is going to not embarrass anybody, and he's always going to err in the player's best interest, not winning the game's best interest. He's just a people person, which is great, but there has to be, I just like Lou Saban, might be a people person, but gets excited on the sidelines. Urban Meyer gets excited on the sidelines.
Oh yeah.
But they still love him. I don't know. It just frustrates me to no end because again, we don't have the mentality that we know we're going to win. That mentality is long gone. Like before, if SC lost a game, it was like everybody was in mourning for a month. Now it's like, well, we're going to be an 8-4. So which teams we're going to beat a team we shouldn't have beat, but we're going to end up losing to a team we shouldn't have lost to.
Well, the Pac-12 schedule is what it is, and I mean, some of the teams that are hanging with them, it's like, okay, it's all, they all relative, they all kind of know each other. What bothers me, Mike, is when they go and play these non-conference games, the big ones. They go to play Alabama in Dallas, or for instance, Iowa in a Holiday Bowl. The games with some pretty good program. Every time they play a non-conference like premier program, there's no more competition. It's like they look so bad. Whereas back in the heyday, when USC played Arkansas, USC played Auburn, I mean, Virginia Tech, there was clear cut, even dominance in some instances, but they were there. They belonged on the same field. I can't say that nowadays with some of the bowl
Do
games.
they mirror their coach?
Yeah.
If your coach is milquetoast, you're going to be milquetoast. And that's Urban Meyer is not milquetoast, and neither is Urban Meyer or Lou Saban. And you can talk about 3 or 4 different ones in college. That even the guy that was at LeVar Edwards when he was at BYU, hey, he had a program. He did what he had to do. The guy at Boise State, he knew how to do what he knew how to do. The guy at North Dakota State, he knows what he's going to do.
Yeah.
The basketball coach at UCLA. I mean, I didn't know him, didn't know about him, but that guy's a heck of a coach.
What a job he's done, Mick Cronin. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, but he's been a winner every single place that he's been.
That's my
shocker.
With programs like USC. Okay, so you take Nick Saban and Urban Meyer. They had been head coaches before. They had been proven winners before. Nick Saban did well at, was it Toledo, I think, when he started 1 year. Then he goes to NFL. He was great at Michigan State, great at LSU. These are a step up each way. He gets to Alabama, and we all know. Urban Meyer, great at Bowling Green, Utah. Then goes to Florida.
Won a national championship at Utah.
Yeah.
National championship at Florida.
I
National championship at Ohio State.
Yeah, and he's been great everywhere he's gone. And it's like, I feel like Clay Helton got a varsity game without earning it. That first, just
the Assignor liked him.
I mean, how is that your first big job? Whereas and the standards of USC have just fallen. Like, they can't get a big name in there. It's unbelievable.
And the other thing that is frustrating me is I put on Facebook is, how do you run a run and shoot offense with a non-running quarterback? How is that possible? The whole point of running that spread offense is so that you get the quarterback. If they don't have a linebacker, spread them out, and he's going to run wild. And that's the other thing on the defensive side. How do you not spy Arizona and some of these schools that the guy's 0 for 12 throwing and he has 165 yards rushing? Because we don't have a spy watching that quarterback, and he can't throw. I mean, just common sense things. I just want to pull my hair out.
Oh, it's same right here. Yeah, I don't get it. 4th and 1. Let's go in the shotgun. Instead of under center. Like, what is going on?
Forward.
I know.
At both ends. Or this could be interesting. Both ends are crash. Fake the dive and pitch.
Something. Anything.
Yeah, just anything.
Pull out a chalkboard, do something. I mean, drop something. Anyway, it's hilarious. The line play, which is something that.
Well, the line play I like. I'm not the defensive end play, not so much.
Yeah, well, as you said, the discipline side of things.
Oh, God. Every time in the clutch, personal foul.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah, and you can all anyway. Let me ask you, Mike. You, lifelong USC fan. You end up. I remember this a few years ago. You went to Notre Dame. I think you took a tour of the campus or something, and your perception of Notre Dame changed, I believe. Tell me about that experience, if you remember that.
Okay. When I grew up, I'm Catholic. Well, I'm Catholic, and Notre Dame should be one of my favorite teams. But unfortunately, I loved SC. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in the jacuzzi at Peely Shores in Hawaii, and I'm talking about I'm talking with the guy. We're talking about sports, and Notre Dame came up. Notre Dame. I said they play the Army, Navy, Air Force, they played the reject schedule. And then, of course, he then went nuts and he started correcting me. Well, we became very good friends. Well, he loves to go to Notre Dame games. So he says, okay, let's go to the Notre Dame SC. No, first we went to a Notre Dame Stanford game, and it was when Luck was a junior. And you go on campus, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We get there on a Thursday, and you pick up on campus, you pick up a folder. Basically, it's a little leaflet, but it's in like 3 or 4 pages, and there's something to do every hour on the hour. It's you get off the highway, and I swear it's 100 yards. You see a golf course, and then out of nowhere, here's Notre Dame. It was the craziest thing I ever did. But I saw Luck beat them, and then the next time I went to a game, it was the SC game where quarterback fumbled. SC picked it up and ran 97 yards for a touchdown, and they won that time.
Oh yeah.
I went another time. I went on Manti Te'o's fake girlfriend, and they beat Michigan. And then the last one was probably my best one. Stanford game, I took one son. Well, on the last trip we went with my Matt and Brian, my 2 younger sons. And as luck would have it, Dodgers are playing Cubs Thursday night.
Oh.
So, and we were coming in on Thursday night. Unbeknownst to me, my kids went on StubHub and bought Dodger tickets. So I didn't even know. We get to the airport, we're getting in the rooms, and then what are we going to do tonight? And they pull out the tickets. I almost cried. And so we went to, and the other thing that was funny is out in the lobby is Mark, quarterback from Baldwin Park. And
Mark
Ruiz, and the El Rancho quarterback, Matt Ariano, who was coaching at Northview, and my son. So that was 3 quarterbacks that played against each other in the same season. Is that crazy? In the lobby in Chicago, going to a Dodger game. Mm-hmm. So we see Kike hit the 3 home runs. We're right behind home plate at the end, get on TV. I went with a group of firemen. So we go to the campus. Half the people stay in the firehouse. We stayed where Rudy stayed, in the basement of the priory of the Sisters of the Poor or whatever. And so that was unbelievable. Friday night, we went to a hockey game. That was unbelievable. That stadium is beautiful. Nobody's hardly there. So we sit right behind the net. And it was really fun. Then you're doing stuff all day long. Then we went to the game. SE got slaughtered. But that's the way it goes. They just didn't come to play. You could tell they didn't come to play from the first handoff. And then on Sunday, they dropped us off at the Bear Stadium, and we went to a Chicago Bear game, and they played Carolina. Walked 3 blocks, got on the L, and went to the airport and flew home.
That's one of the best weekends I've ever heard.
Can you imagine? And that was Thursday, awesome. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so I've been trying.
And the Dodger game, that was a playoff game. That was an NLCS, I believe.
It was are you kidding? That was the one that put him in the World Series.
Yeah.
The final game.
Kike with the 3 bombs. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. And so wow. we didn't know that the Dodgers were going to be there because we didn't know who we were going to play. But just luck, it's one of those things. We set the trip up 6 months before. But unbelievable. But I'm a sports junkie. What can I say?
Yeah. No, and Notre Dame, Notre Dame's an unbelievable place. Like you feel the sacred grounds as you're walking around, and you're just like, okay, this is different. And at Wrigley Field, Mike, I've been there a couple of times. That place is old, it's run down, but it's still a pretty special venue to watch a baseball game.
Oh yeah. We 2 years ago, Jim Jones, our basketball official, James Jones.
Yeah.
He grew up with Ebel, the third base coach of the Dodgers.
Oh, Dino Ebel, yeah.
So he got us tickets to the Dodger series in Chicago. So I took my wife. We went to 3 games in Chicago just before the year before the pandemic. And I think we lost 2 out of the 3, but it was still, like I say, all around the area, it's all built up, and it's just people waiting out in front, and it's really, really, really cool. I was going to say something about um, Notre Dame. Oh God, I'm getting old. It'll come to me. I got to start writing stuff down because I just get these. That's why I interrupt all the time, because I'll forget it if I don't say it.
Oh man, no, it's fun chatting with you about. I wanted to do this a while and talk about officiating, and then obviously other sports and things as well. To the basketball officials out there in the Foothill Citrus unit, I got big advice for you. Huge advice. Pay Mike Kearns the Assignor fees. Pay him on time. It'll never steal you wrong. Trust me. Pay the man. Take care of your Assignor, and the Assignor will take care of you. There you go.
I have a handful of guys that send me a $200 check or two $100 bills so that they can get 50 games. And so if I haven't given them the 50 games, I don't want to give money back. So I just keep giving them games until it gets to the 200. Then I go to the other guy. So there's some smart people. School's a game, life's a game, officiating's a game. You got to know how to play.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know how to play, the guys that don't know how to play don't last. They just don't hang around.
Yeah. Oh, there's a business of the business, as they often say, and you got to take care of business at times. So before we let you go, Mike, as far as assigning, and I just want people to understand, you assign officials in the Foothill Citrus basketball officials unit. There is I want to more than 50 schools, 51 schools. If now, not all these schools have all the teams, but think about this, guys. If it's a full girls program, freshman, JV, varsity, boys, that's 6 basketball teams for each school. Now I know that's not the case. But think of all of the assignments, all of the games, and Mike Kearns here is pushing the button on getting people assignments. How many assignments did you say in a typical year you put out for a basketball season?
Pretty much 6,400.
Oh, 6,400 assignments.
And with that, I have probably 180 that actually do a lot of work. So if you take 6,400, let me think. I'm going to get my computer out here, or calculator. So I have 6,400 divided by 180, let's say. Yeah, everybody's going to get 36 games. And I usually say if you have full availability, you're going to get 40 games.
40, yeah. Oh, pretty much.
But, yeah, the hardest part I can't even imagine Jim Graham when he first did it. Because when they're first doing it, you're doing it by hand. Mm-hmm. And he would have all the schedules in his garage, up and around the corner. And when a school called, you had to take a eraser and put a pencil mark on it, because we didn't have computers then. And so what you would get when you got an assignment from him, whether it be football, basketball, or baseball, was a carbon copy he would have 2 different sheets of carbon paper. One schedule went to the school, one schedule went to the official, and he kept one schedule. But my first year when I did it, we had Arbiter for the very first time, but Arbiter was just starting out. And so there was no checks and balances as far as you take a game on a Friday, you don't show up. Well, you say, well, I called you on Wednesday. Well, no, you didn't. Well, that's a he said, she said. Well, now, once you accept that game, you can't get out of that game until I take you out of that game.
Yeah.
And then I put turn back. And because I was learning, it's a learning curve. Guy pay me $200 for 50 games. He'd give back 5. At the end of the season, I say, oh, he only had 45 games. And I give him back $20. And I realized, wait a second, he gave back. So now I have to put turn back, and then turnbacks count the same as games. So
I don't know how when you started assigning, had you retired from teaching already?
No.
Okay. So I don't know how you specifically, with all the games, all the different levels, how in the world someone does the assigning on top of another real job, your career job.
I was really fortunate. I was an opportunity class teacher. I only had like 8 students, and that was basically packet work. And I had 4 phone lines when I first started. So I could take care of business early on. Principal didn't like me. He put me to a different school. And he changed my hours to 1 to 3, and independent study kids from 3 to 4, 4 to 5. Because he knew I was an official. Well, I'd already stopped officiating. So I had all my kids come on Monday and Tuesday. And so then I only had to worry about 10 to 1 Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Well, Fridays are my worst day, so I could use Wednesday, Thursday to try to get the officials for Friday, and I would just use the computer at school. So yeah, it worked out for me, but getting the job it was just hilarious. Jim Graham dies, the board takes over. They give it to the top football official. He lasts a half a year. He had people. I mean, I loved it. I would do 3 games every Friday. I do freshman, JV, varsity boys, just like I did with you at Azusa. And I'd be at Gladstone, Azusa, and I would be in that league. But somebody was at 2 people were at the other school because he didn't know what he was doing. So he gave it up. Oh, Harry Irwin. Board took over. Then they gave it to Ed Lindsay. He died. Board took over. Then they decided to have an interview. I interviewed, said I was the best candidate, no doubt. I have the time, and I can do this. And I get a call from Perry Hike. Mike, you did really well. You and another guy, it was kind of a tie vote, yada, yada, yada. And I said, well, as long as you didn't give it to Roger Fedorowicz, then we're good. Pregnant pause. I said, you gotta be kidding me. You did not give it to Rod Fedorowicz. He's a freaking principal. How in the heck can he possibly do the day-to-day stuff if he's in a meeting all day?
Yeah.
He lasted 2 years. Then I went in again. I told you I was the best candidate. But you decided to go with somebody else. Well, this time I'm the second best candidate. Tracy McBate's the best candidate because he had already done football. He was a basketball official at the time. He had just retired from the MTA. But if you don't pick him, then you pick me. I wait and I wait. But I told him, I said, but I know the first time it was between me and Rod Fedorowicz, and it was so close, people got tired. Why didn't you bring us both back in, and so we can interview again? So if it gets down to 2, make sure you bring us back in. Yeah, well, I was third, and it turned out. And Rocky and Randy voted against me. Jim Smith and Guy Thomas voted for me, and Perry broke the tie. So he tells me, well, we gave it to John Hauser. And I started laughing. Well, no worries. I'll apply next year. He can't possibly do it. He wasn't going to use arbiter. I said, guy is not very smart. You got to use arbiter. Well, that's why I'm calling. We want to put you on the board in his place. I said, you guys are nuts. Absolutely crazy. I said, okay, but I'm telling you, I'm going to be the biggest doubting Thomas in the world. So I get on the board, and the first thing I do is I pull every unit, and I find out that I was not the assigner because 2 people who weren't picked by their peers, one an IC and one a secretary treasurer, who shouldn't have been allowed to vote, but because of the Constitution at the time, they were, I didn't get the job. So I lost the battle because Rocky ripped me a new one, but I won the war because we changed it so that the IC and the secretary don't vote, and we added more board members. Mm-hmm. So I'll never forget that. Well, John Hauser didn't last. I don't know if I probably told you the story. I had a meeting at our house. John comes with butcher paper, a white piece of butcher paper, and he rolls it on my pool table, and in pencil are all the games that he's assigned. And the people went, uh-oh. And they gave him you have to have this thing done by a certain date. He brings it to us. Half of it's not even done, and it's in ink, and it's Adams, Ariano, all the A's, all the B. He just wrote names down, and they fired him. And so Bill Gaylor and I did it. And that's how I got the job. But it's hilarious.
Well, 20 years later, here you are.
I'm the dean. Nobody, even Rich Colin, because he got kicked out for a couple of years. So now I'm the dean with the longest consecutive in CIF. Also, if you can believe this, a champion of character.
That might be our title for this episode, Mike.
That's what it is. Champion of character.
But before we go, unless you have another funny story you wanted to tell, I gotta hear, our listeners, they need to hear the story of, maybe it's happened a couple times, where you have officiated a basketball game, or at least a portion of it, barefoot a time or two, right? Haven't you? Being a
no, that was, yeah, it's still on Facebook occasionally. I was at Covina High School. It was a Covina girls tournament. It was it was Village Christian and South Hills. And I'm there in flip-flops, shorts, and a t-shirt. And Chris Roberts is working with somebody, and he pulls up lane. And so I have to go into Assignor mode. I look in my arbiter and I realize, well, one of the Hernandez brothers must have just got done with the game. And I call him and I say, can you come to Covina? Yeah. How long? Oh, about 20 minutes. But at least he's dressed. So I tell the coaches, hey, if you can have a one man, or you can have guy coming in 20 minutes. And the South Hills coach says, well, you're the basketball assigner. You can officiate. I said, yeah, but I don't have my stuff. Village Christian coach says, hey, if you're the assigner, it's good enough for me. So here I am, thump, because I didn't want to go flip flops. So I did. There's a picture of me with the CIF logo in the background and my toes curled up with my whistle in my mouth, and I'm looking at the game. And somebody sent the picture to Randy Homer, and all I got is a WTF.
We might have to post that photo before your episode next week when we release this, because that is a classic photo. I find that so funny. Oh man. Well, I hope.
Have you ever seen that picture?
I've seen that photo. Yeah. It's really great. It's almost like you couldn't have posed and made that photo better, photoshopped it. It was.
Thank God I was looking in the right place. I wasn't picking my nose or something.
We would have held you to it. Well, Mike, I appreciate the stories. I appreciate you sharing, your journey with us and just your opinions about sports and everything. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. I will say also to you directly, thank you very much for some great years of officiating basketball. You took care of me, and I wasn't the guy that needed or wanted any big games or anything. I was happy working games close to home, Gladstone, Azusa, places they handed you a check on site, and the games went quick and people didn't get too worked up. So thank you, not just to me, but for all that you've done for the Foothill Citrus unit. It's in good hands because of the likes of you and some others, and the assigning product out there that you guys put out. So really appreciate everything.
Oh, no worries. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I can't believe how the time just flies. But then I'm a motorman. My in the yearbook, they tell you, a picture of your name, what you did, and then your nickname. My nickname was Mighty Mouth. Partly because I was so small, and the other one is because I was so loud.
Mighty Mouth. Okay. Well, with your blessing, I may use that as the title, because
there you go, Mighty Mouth. Yep.
That is fantastic. Mighty Mouth.
I'm going back to Crespi tomorrow. We're going to try to get a Vietnam memorial for a couple of the guys that died in the Vietnam War. We're going there to see if we can't get that done tomorrow.
Oh, wow. That's outstanding. Would love to hear more about that, and hopefully can update listeners here that comes through. That's very.
You have listeners?
A couple here and there, one or two. That's hilarious. I'm sure.
I'm old. I don't even know what a podcast is.
I'm sure when I promote you as, hey, Mike Kearns is coming on, we'll get a big following for that podcast, I would think.
Oh yeah, right.
And I'll tell everyone, hey, you don't even have to pay any money, no assigner fees to hear this episode with Mike Kearns. So,
or I could go the other way, if you can prove that you went there, Mike will give you another game.
Oh man, how much longer are you going to do the assigning thing, Mike?
I don't know. I have 2 years left on my contract. Um, I don't know. This year, uh, this year with 2,200 assignments versus 6,000, it's been 10 times harder.
Wow.
Uh, if the pandemic's over and everything goes back to normal, it's all going to matter if we're going to get the officials to come back, because that's the hardest part. Like Christmas time, we have 11 varsity tournaments. Mike Leduc is going up to 80 teams.
Oh
He's going
my.
to have 3 gyms going with 3 officials on a game. Um, it's just insane how that's going to be. So instead, they want to break everybody's legs down, I think.
Oh man.
But
Well,
that's another issue.
I don't know how you do it, Mike. Bless you for for doing it all these years. And yeah, the games can't be played without officials, and officials can't get there without assigners. So,
I,
uh,
I will say one thing: I have
mhm,
never had a game that didn't have at least one official. That's what I'm proud of.
boom.
And every year we've had a CIF final, there's been a different official that it's his first one, at least one official that it's his first time being a final. That's what I'm most proud of too.
Oh, that's
That
outstanding.
not the same guys going year in year out. Everybody's getting a bite of the apple.
I like it. I like it.
Me
Well,
too.
Mike Kearns, thanks for everything. Thanks for all you've done, and for joining us today on the podcast.
Yep. Wonderful. Thank you very much for having me.
We'll
Had a
talk.
blast.
We'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Perfect.
Take care,
Later.
Mike. Bye.
Bye.
Well, guys, that will wrap up today's episode of the Get Home Safe podcast. Really appreciate Mike Kearns coming on. That was a lot of fun catching up. It had been a while. I always enjoyed working basketball. It was probably my least favorite sport of the three to work, but you know, you made some money doing it, had some great friendships, and just yeah, I miss it only a little. But for now, time off is good and headed in a new direction. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that long episode, long interview with Mike Kearns. I know I did very much. And if we had some technical issues early on, hopefully we've pieced that all together by now. But anyway, you guys have a great weekend. Have a great rest of your week. We're going into springtime here, and summer is on the horizon. So a lot of big things here on the Get Home Safe podcast. Be sure to join us on Monday for our sports segment. Probably just me breaking down some things. And then Wednesday, of course, we'll be joined by Bill Barnes on the weekly Wednesday weigh-in to discuss current events and some random thoughts and issues and things. So Mike Kearns, thanks for joining us. Guys, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Get Home Safe podcast. And guys, as always, no matter what you're doing, whether you're out on the town or rounding third base, get home safe.